This time at the Quick Speed Shop, I'm back working on the rear end of the Model A hot rod shop truck. Alright, so I've been making a little bit of progress here, just a little tinkering here and there. I've got the rear brakes all put back together on the rear end. I'm just waiting for the drums to come from my friends turning them down for me, and I can paint them and slap them up on here. I went and I mounted the battery box back here in the frame, which the battery goes under the bed, and I've got that was from the existing build originally. I just bolted that back in, and I've got the emergency brake cables just hanging out here. I'm not sure exactly where they're going to go yet, but I've got them laid out where they're going to be. They are in about the right location. What's going to happen is they're going to mount to a bracket somehow over here on the spring bracket, and then they'll pull into a U-shaped cable up here, which pulls to the center of the truck. That's how I had it set up originally, and these are new cables. These are off like an 84 Ford LTD. They came off of Rock Auto. I got them on clearance. They were like $3 a piece, so I bought 6 of them because they're short and they're handy for working on hot rod projects like this. Another thing I did is I went and I mounted the rear brake hose, which originally mounted to this breather tube here, but it had a weird layout on the hose fitting, or the brake line fitting. It had a weird layout on the brake line fitting arrangement, so I went and I got a generic hose. I forget what it even fits. And I welded a stud to the rear axle, and I'm going to come off a 3/16 brake line and run out to both wheel cylinders. So I got that mounted up, and I made a little tab, and I've got it mounted up here on the front of the frame. And so next we'll be running a brake line down the driver's side frame rail up and tying into there. And I've also gone ahead and put the original fuel line, which is 3/8 copper. I've went and put that back on the inside of the passenger side rail, and I've got my hose, which is going to go to a fuel filter and then to the gas tank when it mounts in the box here. So I think the next thing we're going to do is we're going to bust out some nickel copper iron brake line, and we'll start running brake line up this driver's side frame rail. I got a little detail on the fuel line here. This is 3/8 soft copper, and I've just got it line clamped with some zip screws right to the inside of the frame rail. It runs all the way up, and then there'll be a rubber hose connection up here to the front to the fuel pump. Here's the rubber hose like I showed you going to the sending unit on the tank is about here, so this will get shortened up. There'll be a fuel filter, and I'm going to make some kind of bracket to hang the hose here and hold it. But everything's out of the way. We got plenty of clearance. Here's the battery box. The battery will sit in here, and then there's a clamp that goes over the top of it to hold the battery in place, and the cables run along the frame, and the side terminal battery, they side terminal into the battery here. I've also put the rear drive shaft into the rear end. That's all ready to go. So after this brake line goes on this frame rail over here, it pretty much ties up this section of the frame where the cab's going to sit. I'm going to bust the cab back out. I've got to clean up a couple details on the bottom of the cab, dress it up, get some new paint on the back of the cab between the cab and the box, and then probably in another video or so we'll be setting the cab back on the chassis here, and this thing will start to look like a truck again. So let's bust out that brake line, and we'll start making the brake line on this driver's side frame rail. Alright, bam, look at this. My buddy Ted coming in the clutch. With my brake drums, he ran them on his brake lathe, and he turned them all down nice. They cleaned up with minimal material loss. This one's like brand new. Look at that. Bam! So I'm going to throw these in the cabinet blaster and hit them up, blast them real fast, and get some paint on them. And then it'll be all ready to put on the rear end here, and I can set it back down on the wheels, and then we'll run that brake line. So here I go. I'm going to blast them. Alright, here we go. I'm back at it a couple days later. So what I got here is a roll of 3/16 copper nickel iron brake line, which is very easy to work with, and it's corrosion resistant. Came in a 25-foot roll. And I'm just getting what I started doing is unrolling it here and straightening it out. It's going to attach to a brake line fitting back here. It's going to come up and follow the kick in the frame. So I've rolled out some. We're going to flare the end first. We'll put the end on here. You can see there's a little jobber on here. We'll put the end on it first, and then we'll get it attached to this brake line. I don't have the clip to hold this into the clip yet, or into the bracket to the frame, but those are coming. But we'll put the end on it here, and we can get it mounted up, and then start to form it around here, then trim it down here. And I think it's going to terminate into the brake light switch first, and I'm going to leave it there and come off the firewall with a new line down to tie in. So let's put the end on this. I got my line here. I got my fitting. Put the fitting on first. Don't want to forget that step. We're just going to come in here. I got the 3/16 out. Whoa. Right. Got the 3/16 fitting in here like this. We're going to do a double flare like this here. Go over here to go down to 0. Pull that down, hold it. Make sure our line's pushed all the way in tight. Make sure our line's still bottomed out. Tighten that down. Alright, now we're doing 3/16, so we'll go here to operation 1 for 3/16. Here we go. Push it till it stops. Operation 2 for 3/16. Boom. Release this here. We should have a nice little double flare. Bam, look at that. Ready to go. Nice. Alright, let's go back over to the frame. We'll get this guy bolted down. We'll start running it. Here we go. Try to straighten this out the best I can here. Stuff's super flexible. It's easy to work with. What I'm going to do is come up here. And I just want to guesstimate where I want to run this. That's going to go into here. Hold that down. This brake line is going to come around here. It's going to transition down a little bit. Like so. Around this clamp. Something like that. So go around here. So let me get the clamps. We'll put a zip screw in, clamp one of these in here to hold this. We can start forming it up down the way here. So I'll probably get a... That looks good there. Probably get a clamp right in here. Got these little guys here. These are going to be the clamps. Just simply go like this. Like that. You can see that right there. There we go. Our first clamp here. This is still freewheeling. I got to straighten this out as I go, but when this clamp goes back in here, this will be good. Let me get some more clamps. We'll keep it about an inch or so off the bottom of the frame. This stuff's super flexible, so I can straighten it out as I go. But you can see here how this is going to look here. It's going to look nice. Get a couple more clamps. We'll run it right down the frame rail, and we'll stop. Roughly, actually, I should flare this before I get too carried away. Should cut this off and flare the other end of it. Alright, now this is roughly held just in place roughly here. I got my brake light switch here, which is on a T. That's going to go right here and make a mark, and we're going to trim this and we can straighten this out nicely. So we'll put this about here, right about here with a little Sharpie. We'll take this line, we'll cut it off, the cutters, and I'll flare it. Then they can, once I'm not fighting that coil, I can straighten all this line out real nice, and we'll run this down the frame. We'll probably put another clamp here, then put a clamp here right before the brake light switch, and then I'll just leave the brake light switch open on this side, and that's where the line from the firewall will come down and make a nice junction point right in here. Pretty easy to get to. So let me get the cutters here. I'll cut this off, and then I'll flare it, and then we'll screw this line down. Alright, I got my line cut. Just adding some more clamp oses here. Look at that. this stuff's flexible enough I can tweak it once it's in place to straighten it all out, pull it in tight to the frame, because it's super wonky when you're working with it. It's also super flexible and super awesome. Boom. Bam. Bam, look at that. Alright, now I've got my line mounted up here nice. Here's the brake light switch. That's going to go here. Like so. Maybe like this, right nice tight to the frame. Boom. So you can see this will give me a nice place to come down off the firewall, and I can sweep around back in here and tie right back in to the brake light switch. Actually, probably should have some kind of bracket action to hold this. I'll figure out some kind of probably a little L bracket with a hole where I can use a wire tie, and I can wire tie this around here and zip screw with a little piece of like angle iron right to the frame here with a hole drilled in it. And I'll use a wire tie, and I'll wire tie this and hold it, give it some strength so this thing can sit right here like this and not be rocking around. I'll make that, and I'll get that on there. I'm going to leave this loose for now. I'm going to tighten up back here, get this all locked in, tweak the line around just by hand to get this whole thing dialed in. Then we'll go to the rear end and we'll do the 2 rear lines for that. Here's a tip. You can use a little bit of masking tape to keep your fittings from sliding off. I cut these lines a little bit long, and I'm just going to get my rough placement here. So I'm going to come up in here to the wheel cylinder. I put a little fluid film on the fitting to help it lubricate and screw in here. Just going to put the fitting into the wheel cylinder. And I'm actually going to get a wrench and tighten it up a little bit so it doesn't wallow out the fitting. There are 3/8 line wrench here. Tighten this down a little bit, snug her up. Just to help hold the line in place. Like that. Boom. So what I'm going to do is this is super easy to work with, so I'm going to form this by hand. I'm going to come along the back of the axle here and drop down, because you don't want to be up where the frame's going to hit the brake line. We're going to run right along the rear end here. Going to use this factory clip here, go up and over the pumpkin. So I'm just going to get right in here. With steel lines, you got to use a bender, but this stuff bends so nice by hand. I can just work it like this. Work it down, make a nice line here. I'm going to come across about the back of the spring shackle down here, the spring U-bolts I mean, and come up in. It's going to go something like that. I can crisp up my lines a little bit here. Try to dial this in just a little bit nicer. And I'm just going to run around here like this. I'm going to form up over the pumpkin. Stuff's formed so nice it's like butter. I come down here and go right to the block that's over here. I'm probably going to have to figure out some way to attach this up here so this doesn't vibrate on the rear end here. But you can see the brake light block here and how the line's going to look out. That looks pretty good. It's going to form right tight to the rear end. It's going to look pretty awesome. Actually, I need to suck this up a little bit more to make it uniform. Suck this down, suck this up. So that looks pretty awesome here. It's run nice down. I'm going to play my angles over here on the wheel, just straighten it out nice a little bit. Get it in this clip here on the rear end, which you probably can't see because it's right on the edge of the video. But trust me, there's a little sheet metal clip that will bend over the line when I'm ready. But this flows real nice around the rear end. And then I'm going to go over here, I'm going to cut it and flare it and put it in this brake line fitting. And then we'll do the small line. But this is looking real nice here. I'm going to take a little bit of fluid film here, and I'm going to put a little shot on my fittings so they have some rust protection and lubrication. Got my 3/16 line, or 3/8 wrench for the 3/16 line. Boom. It looks nice. It kind of matches good, follows the center of the rear end real nice. I'll just take a little hammer and a piece. I'm going to bend this little tab over here that holds the line down. And this thing will be all locked in place, nice, ready to go. And I just got to do the same thing, the short little line over here, which will be real easy. And then the rear brake lines will be complete. The next step's going to be putting the cab on. Alright, bam, there we go. I got my second little line made here, the driver's side line. So now all the rear brake lines are complete. They're all tightened down. Everything is tweaked and set up and clamped down in place. It looks nice and symmetrical going across here. The only thing I got left to do is I ordered in some clips to hold this rubber line to the bracket. That should be here another day or two. The line is run up to the front. We're up to the brake light switch where the point of connection to the cab will be. So all that's done. And pretty much everything's buttoned up on this chassis that needs to happen before the cab can go back on. I also have the battery box back in place. I think I mentioned that in an earlier video, but that's back here. That's where the battery goes. And the rear end is pretty much all set. I'm going to slap the wheels back on it, set it down, and then I'm going to go back to the cab. I've got to patch a couple things on the back of the cab that are inaccessible down here, and then it'll be ready to go on. So I guess the next video will be doing that. So thanks for watching. Please subscribe. I'm putting out new videos every Wednesday and Saturday. Hit the bell for the alerts. Tell your friends. And as always, we'll see you right back here at the Quick Speed Shop for Model A Hot Rod Shop Truck action.